So guys, good morning everyone, and welcome to the session for today. For those of you aware, you always know that every Thursday we always have these sessions whereby we're just choosing a particular topic of our career development or professional development, and we have a speaker who is just going to speak to details about the chosen topic just to help us become opportunity ready. So these sessions are brought to you by 4BM. 4BM is a Forgotten Bottom Millions. And we're just an organization that shares socio-economic opportunities with young people and women across Africa. And so just to ensure that you're also opportunity ready, every Thursdays, 8 p.m., we bring in a speaker just to talk on a specific issue that is touching up on our career development, just to ensure that we are opportunity ready. So today we are going to speak about scholarships. We're going to speak about scholarships because one of the opportunities that we share are scholarships. And our speaker for today is Daniel Adipo. Daniel Adipo is the M&D Director for African Institute of Mathematical Sciences. Yeah, she's the M&D Director there. She's going to tell us more about it. And if you always follow African Institute of Mathematical Sciences, each and every year they award scholarships to Africans who are mostly interested in courses that have a significant mathematical aspect. And one of the key programs that they run is the Next Instant Forum, whereby they're just trying to empower young Africans to be as brilliant the way Albert Einstein was. Yeah. So it's always a scholarship that they award, and the depot being inside there, the depot interacts and knows what needs to go into a successful scholarship application, because many people apply for these scholarships, but not everyone gets the scholarship. Yeah. So without further ado, let me welcome Daniel Adipo. My name is Eric Langi. I'm the project manager for BM. So Dan, welcome and take it over. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone. Good evening, good morning. I don't know where everyone is, but I suppose it's evening for most of us. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hi Eric, I'm just checking if everyone can hear me so that I can continue.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. Maybe Eric, if you could mute everyone else as we proceed so that we concentrate on one end, and then we'll see how it goes. So as Eric has said, my name is Dan Adipo. I work for the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences. We are looking for the next Einstein on the continent, and so as an organization, we engage in training, research, and public engagement in the field of mathematical sciences. So we are trying to use maths for the development of the continent. So we provide scholarships and trainings in the field of STEM to young, talented Africans so that they can contribute to the development of the continent. I'm going to speak very briefly about, what goes into a successful scholarship applications. And I was trying on how to approach this, but I thought it would be a good idea to approach it, by talking about perhaps the do's and the don'ts in general, because, once you talk about do's and don'ts, and people will get to understand what needs to get into an application process to increase their chances of, being competitive and being successful. Yeah, I mean, every scholarship is very competitive because we know that, there's just a limited number of scholarships that are available in every program. And so it doesn't matter what scholarship you're applying for. You just like in when you're applying for a job, for example, you just know that there are many people who are going to apply, and so you're trying to make your chances as high as possible of being selected and attaining the scholarship. And that's why it is very important to take the process of applying for a scholarship very seriously, so that you increase your chances of being successful. Otherwise, you'll do a lot of applications and get tired just because perhaps you're not doing some things that are supposed to be there. Okay, so I will start talking about the do's when you're making an application for a scholarship. So first, it is very important that you conduct rigorous research on the requirements of the scholarship that you're applying for. Every scholarship is very specific and they have requirements. There's some requirements that are really strict that they cannot go below. For example, there's some scholarships that, like in our case, our scholarships are for Africans. So that is an eligibility criteria that we cannot play around with. Then scholarships also have academic requirements, they have certain grades, certain subjects, certain courses. So every scholarship is very specific. So you need to look at the eligibility criteria and the specific requirements of every scholarship before you apply. Otherwise, you will be wasting your time and resources applying for scholarships that perhaps you don't meet the requirements. So for each requirement, you need to list them down and check if you meet them one by one. And if there's any requirement that you do not meet, and most of the time they will tell you what is core that the scholarship will not go below. And sometimes they are just essential requirements that you're encouraged to have, but even if you don't have them, you can still go through. So you need to check. Sometimes it's about language, sometimes it's about age, sometimes it's about subject. It's lots of many things depending on your area of your area of interest. So it is very important to look and go through each of the requirements and check if you meet them. And if you don't, there's no need applying for that scholarship. And also ensure that you use the right application form and process. Every scholarship, just like in jobs, they have a specific process or way of applying, and there are specific things that they need as you're applying. So before you even start the application, you need to look at what is the process. Am I going to mail my application to the organization or the institution that is providing it, or is it going to be online? When does it start? When does it close? Those are very key things that you need to think about as you prepare. And then before you sit down to start applying, like if you're doing it even online, then you need to already have put together all the documents that you'll need. Check, will you need the recommendation letter? Will you need your certificates? Will you need letters from my employers or from my institutions, whatever it is that you will need, so that you put them together to make it easier for you to apply. So it is very important to follow the process. Some people may see an advert about a process, and then the process is requesting them to do an online application, but then they end up sending a mail, or a physical document to the one providing scholarship. In most cases, such applications may be ignored. And if they say that it has to be delivered physically, or it has to be delivered by post, and then you do it online, again, sometimes it may not work. There are scholarships that will want you to either fill a form, and the form you may have to print it out, or you may fill it online. You just need, what I'm saying is that you need to look at the right process that has been indicated in the call. Another thing that is important is ensuring that you align with the interest, and the scholarship is aligned to your interests and goals. And this is very important, because if you go into a scholarship that does not align with your interest and goals in life or career, then you may succeed in getting the scholarship, but you may struggle along the way as you pursue your studies, for example. So it is very important to ensure that the scholarship you want to apply for is aligning to what your future looks like. Most of the time, because of lack of resources, people want to just jump into any scholarship. And if they're bright enough, they may get some of them, and then really get frustrated as they start their studies and all that. So it's very important to ensure that level of alignment between your interest and goals and that of the scholarship that is being provided. And then, I mean, this is obvious. Consider the deadline of the application, and if possible, try as much as possible to apply early, because sometimes you never know. It may be an online application, and towards the end, there is, there are problems. Hello? Is someone speaking? Okay, I may request that we mute our mics if possible, if you're not speaking. So it is very important to consider the deadline. And if you're going to send your application by post, or whether it's online, you need to know and calculate the date so that you're not caught off guard. Sometimes you may find that you want to send your application to maybe another continent and you only have 5 days to go, and in that case it may not be possible to succeed. So it's very, very important that you consider the deadline and work backwards, because like I already said, every scholarship has a requirement, and some of the requirements may also need time. For example, you may be requested to obtain a recommendation letter or a reference letter, or a certificate that perhaps you had not obtained from your former institution. And so those are things that immediately you see a scholarship, you need to already start working backwards to ensure that you meet the deadline. And something that is also requested in most applications for a scholarship is a personal statement, or sometimes it's a proposal about the study that you want to go and do. And it is very important that when you're doing a personal statement is something that is going to show the alignment of your interests, your experience, your grade, your area of interest, and how they meet the requirements. So a personal statement is something that is supposed to be strong, because that is what is going to distinguish you from other people. You may have the same qualifications. Sometimes it's very easy to disqualify or qualify people based on their qualifications because it's more straightforward. But then personal statement or a proposal is now what makes the difference, because now that you cannot, someone may have an A and another person has a B, but the person with the B has a very strong personal statement that is more aligned to the requirements than the person who perhaps has better grades. So you need to spend a lot of time developing a personal statement about what your interests are, what your experience is, and who you really are, and what makes you a suitable candidate for a given scholarship. Like I already said, again, it's important to seek and obtain recommendation or reference letters. Most scholarships will want you to provide a reference letter or a recommendation letter, either from your former school or from your former supervisor or someone you've interacted with at a professional level or even personal level. And it is very important that you only provide references from people who know you well. There are cases where people just provide references without considering if that person knows them well. And so when those people are asked to recommend or make recommendations, they don't know what to do. And so it means that if you're asking someone to be your referee, they should know you very well. And if they don't know you very well, then when you ask them to write a recommendation letter, you need to tell them about who you are and the scholarship you're applying for, so that they do not write or develop generic letters that perhaps may not help in the situation. So be clear about who is your reference and ensure that they're professional and that they know you well. In some cases, depending on the scholarship, they may want you to just provide some details of that person so that a form or something is sent to them so that they fill in and write recommendations on that. But sometimes, again, there are scholarships where they ask you to get that recommendation letter and include it with your application. So again, you need to follow the instructions as required or as provided on the call very clearly. If for instance, you're asked to not send the reference letter directly, and then you send it directly, or that is not going to help. It may already even disqualify you. And then there are also cases, there are also cases of, referees who ask you to write the letter, and then, they just look at it and send it through. It's not right, because recommendation is supposed to really be the truth about who you are. And yes, you may know yourself, but someone who works with you professionally, or someone who has supervised you, may know things about you, or some strengths or about you, some weaknesses about you that you may not be aware of. So it's very important that you provide as much information as they want, but do not be the one writing the recommendation, because then why would someone need it if you're the one who is going to write your own recommendation? And then something that is not minor, but which we need to talk about, is also proofreading your application, so that you reduce, you make your application error-proof. It is very interesting when you receive applications and maybe some have lots of errors, and that may even make people who are reviewing your application to already start rating you negatively. So it's important that you spend time proofreading your work. You can even give it to someone to proofread for you, and to ensure that you reduce the errors as much as possible. And then keenly follow the instructions for applying, because if you do not follow instructions, some scholarships are very strict because there are many people applying to them. And so just by not following instructions, if you miss one instruction to the other, they may not, you may already be out. And if there's need, make a follow-up while ensuring that you are maintaining professionalism and you're not being annoying. This is a very tricky thing. When you make an application, whether it's for a scholarship or it is even for a job, you may want to follow up, because it's good practice to follow up on an application. But again, you do not want to be annoying or to overstep. So if you are going to follow up, ensure that you're formal and you're brief, and you're not getting into arguments about, oh, you said you'd be responding and you're not responding. Like, you almost like pick an argument about your application. I mean, it's you have all the rights to complain and to be bitter and to feel that things are slow. But when you're professional, then you have a better way of expressing what you feel. So yes, this could be need to follow up, but ensure that you maintain professionalism. Someone, okay, thanks. Okay, so some don'ts about making an application for a scholarship is never force alignment in terms of, like I already said, the interest and goals. Because if you do this, you may end up regretting later. If a scholarship does not align with your interests and where you want to go, you should never apply for it. There's no need forcing that something you're interested in, something that you're clearly not interested in, just to get a scholarship, because some scholarships run for years, and you can imagine if you're going to be desperate for those years because you just wanted something. And also avoid forcing eligibility. The eligibility criteria for most scholarships are very clear. And I know sometimes, someone may want to fix, like, they may say, for example, that this scholarship is only available for people who live in Nairobi County or Kenya, for example, or Uganda. And then you want to force that, oh, you see, my mom or my dad comes from there, yet you don't have documentation that proves that you are, a person from that country, for example. I mean, it will take you a lot of time trying to get all the documentation and everything, only to have your document not even looked at, and that can really discourage. So ensure that you look at the eligibility criteria very clearly, so that you're not frustrated. And then I already mentioned avoiding the last minute rush. Like I said, sometimes there are lots of requirements about scholarships that you need to look at. As when you see it, that it should be the first thing. You need to look at, when is the deadline? What does it require? Because some things may need time. If, for instance, we say, like I told you, if, for instance, the scholarship needs a recommendation letter, and this recommendation letter will require that you send an email to the organization providing a scholarship, and giving them details of the person that is your referee, and then they are going to send an email, by themselves to that person. And some people take long to respond. That process in itself could take a week or two, or sometimes even 3, or even a month. So you can imagine if you only had 1 week, and then you discover, oh, they're supposed to ask my referee to send a letter. So it really can frustrate you if you wait up to the last minute. It's very important that, good applications mostly come when they're not rushed. And then do not make generic applications, but instead prepare for every specific scholarship application. Ensure that it is, it is new, it is revised. For example, you need to revise your personal statements or your CV or whatever requirements are needed to match whatever has been said or whatever has been provided on the call, for each scholarship. Because sometimes we lack time and we're busy and all that. We may just be sending the same CV, the same statement, the same everything to different scholarships. And I think that, that does not work, because every scholarship is very specific on what they want, is very specific on what areas they're emphasizing. And so a generic CV or statement, personal statement, will really not increase your chances of being successful. Another note is not just emphasizing this. Do not include references who do not know you well, and who also do not know what you are applying for. If you've not explained to them what you are applying for, then do not include them. Do not surprise people with references. People are busy, and so if you just receive communication that, oh, we need a reference from this person, and reference takes time to write, and especially for people who want to write it well. So if someone receives a communication without prior information from you that, oh, I applied for this and I want this, sometimes they will just see it and not act on it, or they can just write anything, just a very quick write-up to just save on their time. So it's very important that first you're clear about the reference. The person keeping there as a reference should be someone who knows you well and who also has your interest at heart. And it's not preferred to have personal or family references unless it is required. Most of the references will be largely about career, and so this is about work or about your education, maybe somewhere the institution where you studied, for example. So if it is not required, please do not include friends and family members in that space. Then avoid plagiarism while making your application.
Would you please everyone? We're getting so much interference, we're not hearing you properly.
Let us all mute. Let us all mute.
If you all
yes, can you the message here?
Okay. Yeah, now is it better? Is it any better now?
Yes.
Yeah, let me go on. This is something I cannot talk about enough. Plagiarism. The interference is still there. So can we all mute? Okay. It is important to make your application as original as possible. And I know in the field of academic, you cannot afford to write without, borrowing knowledge from here or there. But it's very important that even as you borrow knowledge, that you acknowledge where you have borrowed whatever information it is. If you want to make information yours, you need to also quote the person that originated the information, If there are many ways of discovering plagiarism. So you just want to avoid it completely and ensure that you use proper referencing. And then lastly, never give up too early. Just like even in jobs and everything, they're very competitive and lots of people are applying and people are reviewing those things and seeing a lot of applications. And so chances of, you just want to increase the chances of being successful, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful the first time you try. So it's very important to, keep trying and never to give up early. And one thing that helps is when you look at the requirements versus what you have, because if you go apply for every scholarship that is there, chances are that you may not be successful, and then you will give up just because you didn't look at what matches your qualifications and experience and interest and everything. And so, when you don't become successful, you get frustrated, and then give up. But if you're carefully looking at, the requirements that are detailed about a given scholarship, then you increase your chances of being successful earlier, So yeah, that is my main emphasis, that ensure that you look at the requirements very carefully and that you also take time to write your, what separates you from others. And mostly that is the personal statement most of the scholarships require. Yeah, so I will end it here unless maybe there are specific questions or insights or comments. Eric, over to you. Eric, are you there?
Yes. Yeah, so guys, any specific questions? Regina, kindly mute.
It may not be necessarily be a question, but maybe something to add, from your experiences. You can, you can add something, you can make a comment.
Dan, there's a question on the chat that says, in regard to references, what if you are reliable people who can act as referees? I don't know if that is a question. Michael Nganga, if you can just elaborate on exactly what you're asking.
Sorry, that's a typo. Okay, I have a special case where I don't have reliable referees. In terms of the institution that I went, my certificate reads I went to UK, but I did the certificate from here, and most of the tutors were poached from different universities. So whenever I try to reach them, times I have a very difficult time getting referees. What can I do in that regard?
Well, it depends. It depends on what the scholarships need, but there's some scholarships that may like I told you, may want to contact those referees directly. So you can provide, you can tell them that, I went to this place, I've been trying to reach them, but I cannot reach them. Then you give them the details, or you provide the details of the institution where you went, and perhaps, someone that can be contacted. So I think the referee must not be one person. If, for instance, you went to it's a referee about your knowledge, you can go to one institution where you went. If it is about your your skills, you can go to perhaps a previous employer. So I think you can if it is clear that you went to that institution, you can just say that I went and I've been asked to look for a referee, but they're not forthcoming. Provide their details, but then provide a referee, like two others. Most of the time they ask you for two references. So you provide other people that are not the ones that are not communicating, but then you also provide details about the ones that are not communicating in case the organization may want to reach out to them by themselves. For me, that sounds more credible, because the reason for a referee is just to confirm who you are and to be sure that what you're saying is true. And so if you can even provide details of who to contact and say, oh, I've tried to contact them, they're not responding, I think that is in a way communicating that it is true you went to this place and you're open. But I don't think any institution will say, oh, you don't have a reference, and then they leave you at that. They will not. It's a requirement that you must have two. So if you can't say, oh, I don't have enough, you must. It is something that you must provide. So whether it is coming from another quarter, that is the issue.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and someone is saying that some institutions have advisors who help with the application. It is wise to make full use of them. Exactly. And that is where time comes in. Immediately you see a call, then you need to already start engaging them, because sometimes engaging them may also be a process, writing and then they respond and all that. So that's why the deadline and timing is very key. You cannot, they're also handling many people. So if you go to them a week to the close of the applications, then they may be overwhelmed and might not help much. Then someone is asking, kindly inform us if any scholarships turn up. Thanks. I don't know what this means. But if I were to speak about the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences, our scholarships are open from December to March. That is the time when people can apply every year. So right now they're close to we are selecting the students.
Dan, also to add on that, as 4BM, we always share these opportunities. So if you're in our groups and you're following up on your social media pages, you'll always see those opportunities. Actually, even the one for IMS for this year, we did share, shared a lot of times. I'm sure some of us applied and wishing you well. But always follow 4BM and our social media pages. Any scholarship that comes about, we'll always share.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric.
Okay, any other questions, suggestion?
Is asking how do we get on the WhatsApp group? How do we get?
Yeah. So go to our website 4-bm.africa. 4-bm.africa. Then
or you can put it on the chat so that people get it.
Yes. Yeah, let me put it. Okay, put the link on the chat. Then also follow our social media pages, Forgotten Bottom Millions, and you can always know how to get on WhatsApp. Yeah. Then let me also share our number. Let me share our numbers for BM. When you send us a WhatsApp message, it will auto reply with one of the links to our groups. Let me share that.
Yeah.
Okay, I have shared the WhatsApp number. So just send a text to it, then it is going to reply with a link to our group. Okay. We still have 5 minutes if there is any question, suggestion. Yeah. So when you also go to LinkedIn, search for Dan Adipo, and you can follow him for more discussion on how to apply for a scholarship. It's going to help you.
And I am in the space of monitoring and evaluation. It's a huge interest area that I work in. So if there's anyone who perhaps works in the field of monitoring and evaluation, I'm more than happy to connect so that we share ideas and grow. I do development program monitoring and evaluation.
Okay, I think there's no any other question. So thank you very much, Dan Adepo. It was a pleasure having you. One of the opportunities that we always share, at least on a daily basis, are scholarships, but most of our members always have a problem just applying to them. So we thought it wise to have this session so that moving forward, when we have any scholarship opportunity that we share, we have as many as our members apply and successfully get them.
Yeah.
So we really, really thank you for these sessions. And we look forward to having another session, probably maybe next time, about a different topic, M&D, which is your key area of interest, or any other topic that will be beneficial to our members. Yeah.
Sure.
So for those of us who haven't joined 4BM, I've shared the links on the group, the number. Just send a WhatsApp text to that number, then it's going to send you a link to our groups, and go to our social media pages, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and search the Forgotten Bottom Millions, 4BM. Yeah. So it's a pleasure having you. And if there's no question, once again, thank you, Dan Adipo.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you everyone for listening. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.